Clara had always believed in forever. For 25 years, she had built a life with Ethan, a life filled with love, trust, and the unshakable belief that no matter what happened, they would always have each other. They had weathered struggles before. Financial hardships, stressful jobs, even the loss of loved ones. But through it all, Ethan had always been there, standing beside her, promising that they were a team. That belief shattered the day she was diagnosed. It started with fatigue, deep, bone-weary exhaustion that no amount of sleep could fix. Then came the weight loss, the dizziness, the constant pain that gnawed at her body. The doctors ran tests, and soon, the words she never expected to hear changed everything. She had an autoimmune disease, not immediately life-threatening, but chronic, unpredictable, and one that would require major adjustments. Treatments would be long, expensive, and exhausting. There would be good days and bad. And some days, she might struggle just to get out of bed. But through all of it, she had assumed one thing: Ethan would be by her side. She was wrong. At first, he pretended to care. He went to the doctor's appointments, sat beside her as she processed the diagnosis, and told her they would figure it out together. But his patience wore thin quickly. He started staying late at work more often, coming home irritated, sighing heavily when she needed help. He barely looked at her when she spoke, as if her presence was an inconvenience. Then came the moment that told Clara everything she needed to know. One night, after another grueling treatment, she sat across from him at the dinner table, barely able to lift her fork. Her hands trembled, the weight of exhaustion pressing down on her like a lead blanket. She looked up at him, searching for comfort, for reassurance, for the man she had married. Instead, Ethan put down his glass of wine and sighed. "I can't do this, Clara." Her stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. Frustration etched across his face. "I didn't sign up for this. I can't spend the rest of my life playing caretaker. This isn't what I wanted." Clara felt the blood drain from her face. "You think I wanted this? You think I asked for this?" He didn't answer. A week later, he packed his bags. There was no drawn-out fight, no desperate attempt to make things work, just cold detachment. He told her he needed to live his life, and that she would be better off without him. And just like that, he walked away, leaving Clara alone, abandoned, and facing the fight of her life without the man who had once sworn to love her in sickness and in health. She sat in the quiet of their now empty home, staring at the spot where he used to sit, the air still carrying the faintest trace of his cologne. The man who had once held her hand through every storm had left at the first sign of real hardship. And for a long time, Clara believed this was the end of her story. She had no idea that it was only the beginning. The days after Ethan left felt like a blur. Clara sat in the quiet of their once warm home, now filled only with echoes of a life that no longer existed. The bed felt too big. The silence felt suffocating. She barely had the strength to get up. But even if she did, what was the point? The man she had built her life around, the man who had promised forever, had walked away the moment things got hard. Her illness had already stolen so much from her. Her energy, her independence, her sense of control over her own body. And now, it had stolen her marriage, too. Ethan wasn't just her husband, he had been her best friend, her partner in everything. And now he was living somewhere else, with someone else, while she was left to pick up the broken pieces alone. Friends reached out at first, but the pity in their voices was unbearable. Some didn't know what to say. Others gave the same empty reassurances. "You're strong, Clara. You'll get through this." As if strength could erase the pain. As if determination could change the fact that her body was failing her. And the person who should have been there to help had chosen to walk away. Bills piled up. The treatments drained her savings. Without Ethan's income, she had to start making impossible choices: medication or groceries, therapy or the mortgage. She had always been independent, always prided herself on being able to take care of herself. But now, she felt like she was drowning, watching her life slip further and further away, unable to stop it. The worst part? She could still see Ethan's life unfolding through social media. Happy, carefree, posting pictures of tropical vacations, expensive dinners, and weekends with his new girlfriend, a woman half Clara's age. With perfect skin, perfect health, and not a single burden in sight, Clara stopped looking at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman staring back, pale, exhausted, a ghost of who she used to be. The sickness had taken its toll. But the betrayal? That had done even worse. It had hollowed her out. One evening, as she sat on the couch in the dim glow of the television, she thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is how my story ends. She felt like she had lost everything. But what she didn't realize, what she couldn't see yet, was that this wasn't the end. It was the moment before the rebirth. Because somewhere inside her, beneath the exhaustion, beneath the heartbreak, beneath the pain, Clara Mitchell was still there. And she was about to prove that no one, not her illness, not her ex-husband, not even fate itself, was going to decide her future for her. Clara had spent months drowning in sorrow, letting Ethan's betrayal and her illness define her. But one morning, something changed. She woke up, staring at the ceiling, and a thought hit her with startling clarity. She was still here. She had survived the heartbreak. She had survived the worst days of her illness. And if she was still here, that meant she had a choice. She could let this pain consume her, or she could fight. The decision wasn't dramatic. There was no sudden surge of strength, no cinematic moment of revelation. It started small, one step at a time. First, she forced herself to get out of bed every morning. Even when she didn't feel like it, she started going outside, letting the fresh air remind her that the world was still turning. She reached out to a support group for women recovering from chronic illness. And for the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. Then, she took control of her health, not just physically, but mentally. She adjusted her diet, focused on gentle exercise, and found a doctor who actually listened to her, rather than treating her like a lost cause. Her energy started coming back. Slowly, at first. But it came. But Clara didn't stop there. She had spent her entire marriage supporting Ethan's ambitions, putting his career ahead of her own. Now, for the first time in decades, she asked herself, what do I want? The answer surprised her. She had always loved interior design. She had decorated her home from top to bottom, helped friends with their renovations, and spent years following industry trends. But she had never thought of it as more than a hobby, because Ethan had never taken it seriously. Well, Ethan wasn't here anymore. Clara threw herself into learning. She took online courses, connected with professionals, and slowly built a new career from scratch. What started as a way to distract herself turned into something bigger. Within a year, she had her first paying clients. Within 2 years, she had a growing business. And then came the moment she never expected, a feature in a high-profile home design magazine. The article showcased her incredible work, her journey, and the resilience that had carried her through it all. It wasn't just about her career, it was a testament to her strength. A symbol of how far she had come. And then, one day, she received an email. The sender? Ethan Mitchell. She stared at the screen. Heart pounding. The subject line was simple: we should talk. For the first time since he left, Clara didn't feel fear. She didn't feel heartbreak. She felt powerful. Because she already knew how this story would end. Not with her running back. Not with her forgiving him. But with her proving, once and for all, that she never needed him to begin with. Clara hesitated for a moment before opening the email. The words on the screen felt almost surreal. Clara, I saw the article about your business. You look amazing. I've been thinking about you a lot. I was wondering if we could meet. There's so much I want to say. Let me know when you're free. Ethan, the man who had walked away without a backward glance. The man who had left her to struggle alone. Who had replaced her like she was nothing more than an outdated version of something better. Now, suddenly, he was reaching out. Clara almost laughed. It was so predictable. Of course, he wanted to talk now. Now that she was thriving. Now that she was no longer the exhausted, broken woman he had abandoned. Now that he had realized the new, younger woman he had traded her for was never going to care for him the way she had. Clara had moved on, but curiosity got the best of her. She agreed to meet him, for one reason alone. To see him finally face the consequences of his choices. They met at an upscale cafe. The kind Ethan used to take her to when he wanted to impress clients. But this time, there was no charm, no confident smile. He looked bolder, tired, as if the life he had been chasing hadn't quite worked out the way he had imagined. The moment he saw her, his eyes widened. "Clara, you look incredible." She did. She knew it. Time had made her stronger, not weaker. The last time he had seen her, she had been pale, frail, exhausted. But now she was vibrant, poised, untouchable. She took a sip of her coffee, raising an eyebrow. "So, what did you want to talk about?" Ethan sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. "I made a mistake." Clara remained silent, letting him dig his own grave. "I thought I wanted something else. I don't know, that I needed to be free. But I didn't realize how much I was losing until it was too late." He leaned forward, dropping his voice to a desperate whisper. "We had a good life together. Clara, I miss you. I miss us." Clara almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then she remembered every night she had spent alone. Every bill she had struggled to pay. Every moment of doubt, of pain, of betrayal. And she realized something important. She didn't miss him. Not even a little. Clara set down her cup, tilting her head as she studied him. "Let me get this straight. You left me when I was sick, struggling, at my lowest point. And now, when I'm successful, when I've built a life without you, you suddenly want me back?" Ethan swallowed hard. "I never stopped loving you, Clara." She smiled, cold, unshaken. "Oh, Ethan." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I stopped loving you the moment I realized I didn't need you to survive." Ethan blinked, taken aback. This wasn't the reaction he had expected. He had assumed she would still cling to the past, that she would see him as the missing piece of her life. But Clara? She had already closed that chapter. "I should go," she said, standing up. "But I do want to thank you." Ethan frowned. "For what?" "For leaving me," she said simply. "Because if you hadn't, I never would have realized just how much I was capable of without you." She turned on her heel and walked away, leaving Ethan sitting there, speechless, watching the best thing he had ever had slip through his fingers forever. Clara walked out of that cafe without a single glance back, stepping into the bright afternoon sun like a woman who had just shed the last weight holding her down. For the first time in years, she felt completely free. Ethan had been a chapter in her life, a painful one, a necessary one, but that chapter was closed. And she had never felt more alive. She didn't just move on, she soared. Her interior design business flourished. What started as small projects quickly turned into high-profile clients, magazine features, and invitations to speak at industry events. Clara was no longer just surviving, she was making a name for herself. She was thriving, but success wasn't just about work. It was about living fully. Clara traveled to places she had only dreamed of when she was married: Greece, Paris, Bali, finally experiencing the world on her own terms. She reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and even started dating again. But this time, she wasn't searching for validation. She wasn't looking for someone to complete her, because she was already whole. And Ethan? She heard through mutual acquaintances that his new life had crumbled. The younger woman he had left her for had moved on to someone richer, someone younger. He had tried to salvage his career, but it turned out running from responsibility wasn't a great look in the business world either. He had lost more than Clara, he had lost everything. One evening, as Clara sat on the terrace of her beautiful new home, sipping a glass of wine, she looked out at the city skyline and smiled. Once, she had thought Ethan's betrayal had destroyed her. Now, she realized, it had set her free. She had built a life beyond what she ever imagined. She had won. And the best part? She had done it all on her own. This story is about resilience, self-worth, and the power of starting over. Clara was abandoned at her weakest, left to face illness and heartbreak alone. But instead of letting betrayal define her, she turned it into fuel for her comeback. She didn't just survive, she built a new life, stronger and more successful than ever. Meanwhile, the man who thought he could walk away without consequences learned the hard way that karma never forgets. What do you think? Did Clara get the justice she deserved? Comment 2 if you loved her transformation. Or 7 if you think she should have handled things differently. If you enjoy stories about karma, betrayal, and empowerment, hit like and subscribe to Reddit Story for more incredible tales. Let's talk in the comments.